In this TARANIS Quick Tip, we're going to talk about creating custom graphics for the models that are displayed when you select a model on the screen on the radio. There are lots to choose from already. There's nothing like having a picture of your own particular craft with its own modifications and paint job on the screen. Now the thing with this is that the image itself has to be pretty small. It only can be 64 by 32 pixels and it can only be 4 bits of colour. Now that means that we have 16 shades of grey that we can play with, and because it's a very small image it becomes quite pixelized quite quickly. But having said that, it's still a lot of fun and quite cool to do. So in this one we're going to very quickly use a picture that I've taken of my 250 quad. Here is the one that we've created in a couple of videos so far. Just sat on the desk, I've just taken a quick snap with it, and we're going to turn this into a customized icon that I can put on the radio and select when I set this model up with the Taranis. A couple of things that we're going to need to talk about. First of all, there is some fantastic model icons already. So if you go to opentx.org, click on the download section and then scroll down in here until you find the bit that says Taranis model icons. You get all these wonderful pre-built icons that are all the right shape, size and everything, and they have biplanes, electrical gliders, flying wings. They have things like helicopters, high wing planes, scale stuff, jets, World War II craft, you name it. So if you wanted to download one of these onto your radio, then all you need to do is just right click on the image that you want, say save target as, and pop it onto somewhere where you can remember it for next time. So I'll just pop it onto the desktop. There we go, nice B52. And if I open the B52, you'll see it's a really small image. If I zoom in, you can see that actually as we zoom in, it's really pixelized. If I right click and we look at the properties for that image, just so I can show you what it's like, click on details, you can see here that it's 64 by 32 pixels, the width and the height as we've talked about, and that 4 pixels bit depth. That's the really important part. If you have it the right size but it doesn't have the bit depth, then it will be a little bit big and the radio will not load it or use it. It won't stop the radio working, but it just won't appear in the screen. So let's have a go at actually creating our own one of these, because I think that's a little bit more fun. So we're going to use this picture that I took, and what I've done is I've sat with Paint or a graphics editor and I've actually deleted the background. So what I've done is I've just drawn around it and painted everything white. Doesn't have to be super neat, because by the time you've shrunk it down to 64 by 32 pixels it'll be rasterized anyway, so you'll lose any of the super detail. But that is good enough for what we're going to do. So we're going to edit this image and we're going to turn it into a bitmap of the right size so that we can pop it on the radio. So we're going to need a little bit of software to do this with. The one that I would recommend you use is this thing called IfranView or FrSky. Not sure exactly how you pronounce it. This is something that I've used for ages. I'm going to show my age here, but I used to use something called XV on early Unix systems, which was like a graphic viewer, and this is very similar. It also provides some really powerful editing pieces, particularly around creating things like icons and changing things like bit depth, which some of the more sophisticated programs will struggle to do or make it very hard for you to find how to do it. Now it's a free thing, so you can go to download and you can install it onto your machine. I've already done that, so I'm going to start it on my computer and we shall open that image that we just looked at. There we go, the quad white. Right. Now we can see it's obviously miles too big. It's over 3,000 by nearly 2,000 high. So the first thing we're going to have to do is resize this, because we need it 64 by 32. So we're going to go in Image, Resize, Resample, and we're going to select the new size. If I type in 64, unfortunately it's going to be too big on the height. If I type in 32, it's not going to be wide enough. It's better to do it this way, because we can add an extra little bit of border around the outside. So we'll click OK. I'll make it really diddy, so we'll zoom in. Now we can see that it's 50 by 32 pixels. It needs to be 64, so I'm missing 14. So if I add 7 white pixels either side, it'll be exactly the right size. So I'll go to Image, change canvas size. I'm going to add 7 to the left hand side and 7 to the right hand side. We're going to choose white as the canvas color, click OK. Zoom in again. There we go. So now my little picture is 64 by 32, but it's still by 24. That's the color depth. So that's the last thing we need to change. So we're going to go to Image, Decrease Color Depth. Going to select 16 colors, which is 4 bits. Click on Make a Grayscale Image, click OK. And there we have the file ready to go. So it's 64 by 32 by 4. We'll click File, Save As. We'll pop it on the desktop. We need to save it as a bitmap. We also need to make sure that the name is less than 10 characters and doesn't include any spaces. So I'm going to call it 250 quad, and I'm going to pop it back on my desktop. Right, and get rid of that now. So the last couple of things now is to get this file onto the radio and then to select it in the model screen in the radio so that it appears on the display. So to get it onto the radio is pretty easy. There are two ways we can do it. We can either take out the SD card at the back and then we can just plug it into the computer and put it on that way. Or the other way, which just saves the wear and tear on the SD card itself, is to power on the radio holding the 2 tabs in and turn it on, and on the screen it'll say Taranis bootloader, it'll say write firmware, restore EEPROM or exit, and on the bottom it says or plug in a USB cable for mass storage, and that's what we'll do. So on the back of the radio we'll plug in a USB cable and then we'll plug the other end into the computer. Tells us that the USB connected on the radio. And now if we go into the computer, we now have a new removable disk. And here are all of the areas. They're actually on the SD card that's inside the radio. The one we're interested in is called BMP or bitmaps, and here are all of the different models that are on my radio. So to put the new model in place, we just drag and drop it into the directory, and there we are. We have our 250 quad, and again the important thing here is to make sure it looks like 2 kilobytes in size, the same as everybody else. That looks like it's going to work. So we'll close that down. We'll now disconnect the radio from the PC. We'll exit out of that.
Welcome to Taranis. Throttle warning. Throttle active. Stabilize mode.
And now what we'll do is I'll just zoom in and we'll actually set this model up. So to select the model is pretty straightforward. What we have to do is we're going to press Menu, and then we're going to select Page, and then here we are on the second menu, and second thing on the menu is Model Image. If I hit enter there, I can zoom around. Now the one I called it was 250 quad, so you have to, particularly if you have a lot of images, you just have to scroll through them all to find the one you're after. Now we have 250 quad selected. If I exit out of there, there's the picture that we created down here at the bottom of the screen. Picture of my actual 250 quad itself. So the reason that it's a nice clean image is because we did that white background. If you didn't do the white background and it was just a photo, then you used to have a square in here and it wouldn't be quite as contrasty. So if you don't want to do that white background step, you don't have to. So hopefully that helps those of you that are looking to make your own custom graphics and add them onto the model screens. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and happy flying.